All right, so we touched on the opener in the intro. The first fight card in Saudi Arabia, first time UFC has been there, and this card delivered, had a big main event, big finishes, a lot of highlight finishes. Crowd was good by the end of the fight. Of course, we had some bad ref decisions, bad judges decisions. There's nothing like a UFC card without that.
I was about to say that exact thing.
So all in all, great way to start the UFC in Saudi Arabia. They signed the contract. They're gonna be there a few times a year now.
Yeah,
twice a
Dana
year
said for fight nights.
for fight nights. So Alex, before we hop into the action-packed main card, let's recap the prelims.
The prelims were great. To start it off, opening the prelims, Chang Ho Lee gave Zhao Long a long fight that ended with Chang Ho Lee being the split decision victor. From there,
Shout out split decision.
Magomed Gadzhiyassulov defeated.
Just a spoiler alert before you finish this. A lot of Magomeds in this fight card.
Yeah, and I'm going to do my absolute best with all the pronunciations. Magomed Gadzhiyassulov defeated Brinson Ribeiro by way of majority decision. Christian, do you think Magomed did enough to win over Ribeiro there?
I think Magomed deserved to win. I don't think this was a judge's. I think it was a close fight.
I mean, one judge had it as a draw.
Hence the majority decision. I think it was a close fight, but I think Magomed was the slight winner in this.
I agree. 29-28 was the accurate scorecard, if you ask me. Moving on from there, Muin Gafarov took on Kyung-Ho Kang. He won by unanimous decision after defending a bunch of takedowns and landing heavier damage. It was an impressive performance by him, and it's moving him up the pecking order for next fight. A name we've heard before, Rinat Fakhretdinov. He got back in the win column after a wrestling heavy approach. He stayed heavy on Nicholas Dalby, and he forced the clinch. That led to his split decision victory.
Shout out split decision.
Right. And then Felipe Lima, I wouldn't say he was down heavy late, but you could argue that he was down on the scorecard.
Way to make a UFC debut, though.
Right.
Come in short notice against a guy he was wasn't a big underdog, but
right. I think it was like plus 110.
But as you said, he was
120.
losing the fight, obviously, and he comes out with a big finish at the end.
Yep. Impressive coaching from his corner. They're saying, hey, do it for your mother. He rallied late and secured the rear naked choke over Naimov. That, because Felipe Lima hasn't lost since his first fight, he's on a 13-fight win streak
1-0 now in the UFC. He beat a guy that was, 3-0 in the UFC?
3-0 in the UFC.
So he instantly gets some UFC cred.
It's perfect. I mean, I'm excited to see. I didn't think Lima was going to win. You know, it's hard to win short notice, especially on your debut.
Definitely a guy we're going to be looking out for in the future.
Absolutely. And then moving on to the main event of the prelims, the lightweight Kelvin Gastelum, Nasrat Haqparast went to war with Jared Gordon.
I was about to correct you and say you got the fights mixed up. I didn't realize where you were going when you mentioned Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah, but as soon as I finished, we made it there. After stuffing 13 takedowns and throwing about 330 strikes, Nasrat Haqparast walked away with a close 29-28 split decision win. A bunch of decisions on the card. On the beginning of the card, we had split decisions, unanimous decisions, a majority decision.
All over the place.
It was a good prelim card to offer up UFC Saudi Arabia to kind of introduce it.
But then the main card took it over the line. Main card was I believe where it was at. It was got the crowd into it, exciting finishes, exciting fights. So let's jump into it, and we're going to open up with the main card opener. Volkan Oezdemir, Johnny Walker. R.I.P. Johnny Walker.
Man, that was a good, 2 minutes?
Good 2 minutes. Oezdemir drops Johnny Walker, which he was probably out, but he was kind of laying on his back like he was maybe a little conscious. Oezdemir finished him with
I don't know what you call the strike.
Punch to the head while his head was against the fence.
Yeah, he just flatlined him.
And just flatlined Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's his first quote after the fight was, I got to figure this out. But man, Volkan Oezdemir, as a guy that's been up and down, this was a way to make a statement and kind of put your name back out there as somebody to look out for.
Absolutely. He moves to the 7th ranked spot in the UFC light heavyweight rankings, which, that's going to prove well for him. He got 2 knockdowns within the first 2.5 minutes of the first round. That's highly impressive.
He packed some power, the Swissman. That was his 20th career victory, too. Now 8-6 in the UFC.
So I got 3 options for who he could fight next, who I think he should fight next. I got Jamal Hill, Jan Blachowicz, or Magomed Ankalaev. I'm giving him those 3 options for a couple
those are
of
pretty
reasons.
lofty names to throw at him for a guy that's 8-6.
The guy just moved to the 7th ranked spot. He deserves a top 5 opponent, regardless of, there's no more tests. You beat Johnny Walker. Yeah, I know he's been beaten before, but you passed the test by knocking him out cold in the first round. Who do you think he, out of the 3, could fight?
It was
do you
Jamal
have another
Hill,
option?
Ankalaev, and who else?
Jan Blachowicz.
Give him Blachowicz. I think that would be a good fight. It's 2 European dudes, kind of bulky, kind of both have, little power to them.
Yep.
Polish power versus the Swiss power. Let's see who wins that one.
All right, let's move on to the next fight in the main card.
Shaver Bullet.
Magomedov, shout out, versus Antonio Tricoli.
Tricoli came out strong.
Yeah.
He looked good, but you can tell that they were mentioning during the fight card. He had 2 weight cuts in 2 weeks because he was supposed to fight the last week, cut weight, decided last minute this was a bigger fight for him, so he took this one, had to cut weight again a week later after traveling like 15 hours, like 3 days before.
Yeah,
he came out strong, but boy, he faded at the end.
Faded hard.
But Shaver Bullet does what he does. He stood in the pocket, traded punches. He survived, and he just kept wearing on you, and he has great cardio.
I loved how Dana said in the post-fight that he confirmed it finally that he probably won't be able to fight outside of those markets.
Yeah, he can't.
He's obviously
he can only
blind
fight in like Saudi Arabia and Dubai.
Yeah, which cool. It was a great performance by him. Had the obvious edge. I have no who's next for him.
And he finished the 3rd round TKO. So.
Yeah.
Well, did you see who called him out?
Bo
on
Nickel.
Twitter, Bo Nickel.
Yeah,
but the only problem is then Bo Nickel has to travel to which I think a fight night or not a fight night, a pay-per-view in Dubai, Bo Nickel can make that.
I think eventually you could see that fight. It may not be next because.
But the only problem is
how much time do you have before the next Saudi Arabia card or for the
it
next
could be
Dubai card?
Shaver Bullet though, his weakness, he did improve on it. His weakness coming into this was supposedly his ground defense.
Yeah.
Getting taken down.
He defended 7 takedowns.
He defended 7 takedowns, but him versus Bo Nickel, that would be a matchup where can you defend his takedowns?
Right. Yeah.
I think that would be a great matchup. I think it's 2 guys, undefeated guys, both of them obviously, both rising stars, both have like a mystique about them in terms of like their online presence. Like Shaver Bullet, one of the best meme fighters.
Yeah, he is.
Bo Nickel is what he is.
And like for Shaver Bullet, you don't want to get like put to sleep by like him. It's got a bad look. He's got one eye and he's just two-piecing everybody. It doesn't look good for the sport. He probably doesn't have a lot of people wanting to fight him either.
I would like to see that fight, but as you said, I kind of doubt that would be at least next for both guys, especially Bo Nickel.
And that's not to say that they're, it's kind of like not different career trajectories by any standpoint. They're both on the up and up. It's just Sharer can't
logistics.
fight. Yeah, he can't fight anywhere but in the Middle East. So you have to just wait for that kind of...
Wait for the right card.
Exactly.
The timing has to be right, which I don't know if it is right now. But I would love to see that fight.
Let's move on to the next fight. Kelvin Gastelum versus Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez.
Kelvin Gastelum asked for a weight class above, then not complained, but then was like, I can't make the weight still. He came out and he performed well. He lasted all the way through the fight. It ended up being a unanimous decision win for Kelvin Gastelum.
But is that him being a bully? Like... You couldn't make weight.
And then watching the fight, you're like, yeah, you look like you're in all right shape to like.
Right, like you look like you didn't try to cut weight. You look like you could, lost 10 pounds.
Bisbing did call him out. He was online. Bisbing was like, yeah, it's very unprofessional. It's kind of bullshit that you did that.
Especially somebody, it's not nearly his first fight in the UFC. He's been in the league.
No, but he's had
problems with
weight problems throughout his whole career. But all in all, this was a nice performance from Gastelum. He's a guy now. I think he's lost like 6 out of 8 coming into this. So any win he can get is a good win. He looked good in the fight. Like if you're just watching the fight and you didn't know any of the background,
you
the
take
weight
the
issues,
drama out.
You're like, man, he looks pretty good. And he's great on the feet. He continued his streak of you cannot put this guy out. You can't really drop him either.
They call him a brickhead.
He is a big
brickhead. So I get, you have a dome like that, you got to be hit really, really hard to put you out, apparently.
But unfortunately...
So if I couldn't knock you out is what we're pretty much getting at.
Unfortunately, because of the we can't just ignore the background issue.
Right.
So even though he won and he looked good, I don't think he like moves up or like in the rankings or anything. I don't think
so this
it's
is
not one you can take a lot of good stock in. You got to win, yes, on paper, but in the time being, it's not like he's gonna. Oh, and now he deserves to move up the ladder or anything.
I completely
Because they will hold
agree.
it against you, the UFC, rightfully so.
Yeah.
If you're missing weight and you do this
Right. So
unprofessional.
the only thing he held ground is that he won a middleweight fight. Like, they fought at 185. He won a middleweight fight. He's nowhere near the middleweight contender list.
Well, he was at one point and he couldn't handle it.
Right, but
And then he moved down. Yeah.
now he can't make weight for welterweight. So it's like, what do you do?
He's a guy, if he could get his weight issue and he could consistently make welterweight, I think he would be a contender.
I agree. What about? So I don't really have a who's next because his post-fight was just an apology. Like, please don't cut me.
And that's like the third time he's
Right.
had that post-fight.
And then if he does fight again in the UFC, which I'm sure
He's
will,
going to fight again in the UFC.
What division? Do they force him to fight middleweight that they know he can make weight for, or do they give him one more chance at welterweight and
I think
give him a
next
chance
fight,
to disappoint somebody again?
I think next fight is going to be middleweight. I think you have to put him at middleweight.
I agree. Let's move on to the co-main.
Co-main event, and this was the one, you had it right, I had it wrong. I was very surprised. Alexander Volkov defeats Sergey Pavlov, unanimous decision. Pavlovich, I'm sorry. Pavlovich, I think he came in he was 6-2 in the UFC coming in. Every single fight was first round, whether he won or lost.
There was like 13 straight fights between the two of them combined that like never made it.
And
out of the
Pavlovich,
first round.
17 out of his 20 career fights, regardless, was first round.
Mm-hmm.
And then Volkov just used his length. Finally, if Volkov fought like this every fight, he would be already like.
He would be better than John Jones?
I don't think he'd be better than John Jones, but he would already be like that upper echelon of heavyweight fighters. But he looked so good in this fight. This was a great win for Volkov.
And you're right, it was a great win. And it's not even the reach that gave him the edge because he doesn't have a reach advantage over Sergey. He's got a big height advantage.
The height reach, it comes into play.
Right. That, being able to keep your distance because of your big frame, the
Big
kicks.
frame, long legs.
32 total kicks he threw out, or 42 total. He landed 32 of them. That helped keep Sergey out of the pocket.
Yeah, he
kept
kind
him
of
at distance.
he negated Sergey's power. I mean,
Yeah.
Sergey's known as the guy who puts you out one punch, and he kind of.
So
Sergey's now lost 2 in a row. One of them against Aspinall said, "I'm going to beat you at your own game," knocked him out early. And now Volkov is like, "I'm not going to let you get near me."
Yeah, I'm not trying to take one on the chin.
Easily beat him, won every round.
Yep, 29-28, 30-27, 30-27.
I think it was a 30-27.
I agree. I think it was 30-27 all the way. Now, this is a weird spot for Alexander Volkov because he's very good.
It's not 4 wins in a row.
He just called out John Jones. He said he wants to fight John Jones for his legacy. Which I get. You're well-seasoned
he's
UFC
trying to
veteran
win
on a streak.
Trying to get some money.
But if we're not talking John Jones, let's talk Cyril Gane or the winner of Aspinall versus Curtis Blades.
I like that. Or I'll throw a wild card at you.
I'm going to write it. What's up?
Give him a rematch versus Derek Lewis. First time he fought Derek Lewis, he dominated Derek Lewis until literally the last 15 seconds. Lewis caught him and knocked him out.
But that's the fight game.
It is the fight game. That was My Balls Is Hot, if you don't remember.
Yeah.
That was that fight. Give him that. Try to avenge that.
That was in the States, too.
It was in the States. It was actually before, what fight? I think it was before McGregor Khabib.
Wasn't it in Houston?
No, it was McGregor
Las
Khabib,
Vegas,
actually. It
or
was
New
Vegas. So I think give him that fight. If he beats Derek Lewis, I think he gets a title shot. 5 wins in a row at the heavyweight division. That's like title shot.
So do you want
Especially against
Derek
Allrenko.
Lewis for the next fight?
I like Alexander Volkov, Derek Lewis 2. Give him
All
a
right.
chance to rematch it. Give Derek Lewis.
That sounds
a
like
chance.
that sounds like either a co-main or a fight night main event.
I agree.
All right, let's go on to the probably best fight of the night, even though it was one of the shortest.
Best fight of the night,
Or it was
probably
the shortest.
most impressive, and this was Robert Whittaker, still reminding everybody he's still that dude. First round knockout against Aliskerov.
Or Aliskerov, I've heard them say.
Aliskerov took this on short notice. He came in 3-0 in the UFC, 15-1. His only, I think, career loss was against Hamzat in the regional circuit. He had a lot of hype
He's
around
got a new
him.
loss now, though.
A lot of hype around him. He came in, they're like, "Oh, is this the changing of the guard?" Whittaker said no. First round knockout, just overwhelmed them. He showed he had more talent, more experience. Robert Whittaker's that dude. He's still a title contender.
Doesn't it make you feel good when the fighter you've watched fight so many fights and win so many fights, and then you've seen him, and you've seen his lows, Whittaker losing to
Duplessis and Izzy.
Duplessis, and then they give him a guy. I'm kind of going on the tangent here with like Poirier and.
It reminded me a lot of Poirier BSD, except
Right.
that BSD had some success against Poirier first round.
And Aliskerov or Aliskerov
Whittaker
just
just was like, this dude does not belong in the octagon with me.
right. He said he is the most dangerous middleweight, and I agree. Give Whittaker whoever he wants, and he wants Adesanya, DDP. He wants
the
Sean
winner of that.
Strickland.
I think I would like to see the winner of Duplessis Adesanya versus him, but I really like him versus Sean Strickland. Winner gets a title shot no matter what.
Or the guy that nobody's talking about who keeps winning, you can't put him down, Nasruddin Imavov.
Imavov's a good one too. I like that one too.
He keeps upsetting people. He upset Roman Dolidze. Not even upset. He beat the shit out of Roman Dolidze. He went in and he just knocked out Jared Cannonier. He's climbing the ranks quick. I think there's a title shot, change of guard coming in the middleweight division
or
in
fuck it,
2024.
give him Hamzat.
If
reschedule
Hamzat can
that
ever
fight.
fight again.
Yeah, Hamzat's all over the place. But yeah,
Hamzat
Robert
might
Whittaker
be in the McGregor corner of never fighting again ever.
Robert Whittaker has the world at his fingertips. He has a lot of choices. He's either title shot next or one fight away from another title shot.
Absolutely.